So thank you guys for coming out to the Black Women's Empowerment panel. We'll start with the bios of everyone. So first up is Rowena Gringer. Dr. Rowena Gringer received her PhD degree in medical pharmacology in 2010 from the University of Arizona. Her dissertation focused on the inflammatory responses to Alternaria in airway epithelia cells by evaluating cytokine expression patterns and the roles of proteases. She then went on to pursue a postdoctoral training position at Washington University in St. Louis, where she worked on developing and optimizing in vitro airway epithelia cell model systems used to better understand mucilin production from airway epithelia cells. In 2013, she made a shift from her research pathways and started her academic administrator career by joining staff at UConn as a STEM fellowship advisor. As an administrator in student development, Rowena creates programs, coordinates university support, and guides individual students toward success in major national scholarships and fellowship competitions. She recruits UConn students to apply for a variety of nationally competitive scholarships and fellowships, and works with applicants to develop their proposal and coordinates faculty and staff supporters to serve as critics and evaluators in an effort to help candidates strengthen their applications. Earlier this year, Rowena was appointed as the Health Research Program, HRP, advisor responsible for facilitating student participation in undergraduate research at UConn.
Next, we have Dr. Shanece M. Davis. Dr. Shanece M. Davis is an assistant professor in the Department of Communication and a faculty affiliate of the Africana Studies Institute and the Institute for Collaboration on Health Intervention and Policy at the University of Connecticut. Dr. Davis began her academic career at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and conducted undergraduate research through the Ronald E. McNair Scholars Program. Her work was awarded the Stephen H. Chafe Undergraduate Research Award from the Department of Communication. Dr. Davis earned her Bachelor of Arts in Communication and Feminist Studies with high honors, as well as her Master of Arts in Communication at University of California, Santa Barbara. She later moved to Iowa City, Iowa, to finish her PhD in Communication Studies and a doctoral certificate in Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies at the University of Iowa. Her primary area of specialization is interpersonal communication, which emphasizes in racial and gender identity, intra or intergroup dynamics, and supportive communication, as well as resistance, counter-hegemony, and resilience. Her specific line of research explores how Black women's complex identities and the power-laden social structure that shape them influence the way they communicate with close others. These interests are represented in her theory called the Strong Black Women Collective. New research on the theory connects Black women's culturally nuanced behavior to important health and relational outcomes such as self-reported mental health, well-being, stress, and anxiety, relational closeness, group solidarity, and group identification. Dr. Davis was recently awarded the 2018-2019 American Association for University Women Postdoctoral Fellowship. This prestigious national fellowship affords her time off from teaching to pursue her research endeavors. Dr. Davis is involved in various professional communities around the nation, and her activities include serving as the second vice chair of the African American Communication and Culture Division and the National Communication Association. Aside from her academic pursuits, Dr. Davis volunteers her time to organizations and nonprofits that support the overall livelihood of Black women and other people of color in the greater Hartford community.
Next we have Shanece Austin. Oh, no we don't. Yes, we do. Sorry. Okay. Janine Austin is the director, UConn School of Business Office of Diversity Institute. Her role focuses on the recruitment and retention of diverse students, which includes students from underrepresented ethnic groups, first-generational and low-income students. In addition, she is charged with the development of strategic partnerships within the School of Business to create and sustain a diverse and inspiring environment for excellence in teaching and learning. Ms. Austin has served on several university committees, including the University Senate Enrollment and Diversity Committee and the School of Business Undergraduate Council. She also manages the Traveler's Edge Scholar Program, a college-to-career pipeline program that prepares students for careers in the insurance and financial services industry, as well as career pipeline programs with Altria and UTC, Pratt & Whitney. Shanece has worked for the University of Connecticut for nearly 20 years and has held various positions within the School of Business, including spending several years as an academic advisor. She earned her undergraduate degree from UConn and has completed a UConn Graduate Business Certificate program.
Next we have Monique Golden. Monique Golden is a doctoral student at the University of Connecticut in the Learning, Leadership, and Education Policy program with a concentration in Leadership and Education Policy. She earned her Master's in Higher Education and Student Affairs from UConn in 2015 and a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from Lehigh University in 2013. Her research centers on the experiences of Black women and girls in education and includes the analysis and critique of historic and contemporary policies, laws, and research practices that govern how and to what extent Black women and girls are either excluded, misrepresented, or underrepresented in achieving the espoused benefits of K-12 and higher education.
Next we have Paris Pruitt. Paris Pruitt was born and raised in Hartford, Connecticut to parents dragged through the criminal justice system, which you may call criminals. She attended the University of Connecticut as a biological science major and is a first-generation college student. Through the need to make a difference in communities of color, led her to become a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Through time, contemplation, and hard work, she founded a nonprofit organization, the Imprint Initiative, Inc., to propel middle and high school scholars of color to discover their passions. She wrote the best-selling book, Unshackled, 22 Years of Pain, Held Captive. The purpose of Unshackled is to allow insight into the unleashing of pain.
And lastly, we have Alexis Trench, who is originally from Huntington Station, New York, which is on Long Island. She studied pre-veterinary medicine and animal biosciences at the University of Delaware and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in 2017. She decided veterinary school wasn't for her, so she got into an undergraduate research lab. And this led her to graduate school after taking a year off to work and save some money. She's currently pursuing a master's in animal science and in Dr. Govani's lab. She is simultaneously working as a graduate director for the Whimsy Learning Community, which provides educational support and programming for women in STEM majors. She hopes to one day get a job doing some kind of research. Urban farming, agricultural education, and helping women and African Americans are all areas she's passionate about and interested in working on someday.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Irritated Besson, once again the president of NCAW. So I just want to give a little background on the panel. So basically this is our 4th year having the panel in a brunch form, and this year we're doing it with Sisters Inspiring Sisters. I'm happy everyone's here. This is the day after our year anniversary of being chartered as the first New England section in Connecticut. Well, no, first collegiate section in New England, but in Connecticut as well. So our year anniversary was yesterday, and we just wanted to kick it off with this beautiful event. Also, I would like all professional staff in the room to stand up and introduce themselves. After, I need everyone in the back 2 tables to move up to the front 2 tables because there's a lot of space and I would just prefer like an intimate environment. Oh, Nia, that is your table. You can leave your stuff back here. It's about 6 chairs up here, 3 right here, and about 4 right here. Okay, so this table, professional woman, can you please stand up and quickly introduce yourself?
I'll go ahead and begin. Hi, everyone. I'm Gladys Christine, the Dean of the Next School of Education here at UConn.
Hi, I'm Endia Cordova. I'm the Director for Strategic Initiatives for the UConn Foundation.
Starting over? I'm Dr. Fiona Bernal. I'm in History and Africana Studies, and I'm the undergraduate advisor for African Studies.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Williams, Assistant Professor with the GYN at the University of Connecticut Law Center School of Medicine in the Department of GYN, and I have office practice here on the Source campus, in Source Center. Please come, all of them.
Thank you for introducing yourself, everyone. So now we will proceed with the panel questions and Q&A form. So first I'll ask the panelists and then they'll open it to the audience.
So the first question is, what career did you envision for yourself growing up, and what finally motivated you to enter into the field you're in now? Do you see yourself staying in this position for life?
I'll start since I don't know. So this is Tarina, by the way, and so I started out my undergraduate career in a biochemistry major with all intentions of going to medical school. And then I got involved in research and really liked it. First of all, I thought that the only thing that you did with STEM degrees go to medical school. I had no idea that you can actually, pursue other things other than being a teacher. Like, I thought if you were, science, you go to medical school after a bachelor's degree. And luckily for me, there were a lot of great research programs at University of Arizona that exposed me to research and careers in research. And so I decided to, get involved in research, really liked it, and was part of the Minority Access to Research Careers program, which is part of NIH. And that program essentially grooms you for grad school. And so I decided to pursue a PhD in medical pharmacology because I thought I was going to be a drug discovery scientist. I was really excited at the idea of discovering new drugs for uncured diseases. So I got my degree in medical pharmacology. And then as from my bio, you learned that I of course, switched paths. And that was essentially because I became really interested in mentoring students and just really interested in a career that was more involved with students. A lot of times people ask me like, oh, if you had pursued a career as a faculty member, you would interact with students, but I felt like I wanted to do it in a different way. And that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing today. And I think eventually, I don't necessarily see myself doing what I'm doing forever, but I would definitely like to work more with graduate students. And so I hope that my career path takes me that way, just interacting with graduate students more and helping them discover their path and what it is that they're trying to do professionally.
Hi, my name is Alexis again. I am one of those graduate students who's trying to discover her path. When I started, ever since I was like a little tiny baby kid, I was like 5 years old, and I told my mom I wanted to be a vet. And I was all on the right track. I got into a pre-veterinary program. I was learning how to work with animals. And then I heard how much vet school costs, which you could buy a house for that kind of money, I'll say. So I started thinking of other avenues because I already had undergraduate student debt. I didn't want to add to more student debt, and I was trying to think of what I was truly passionate about and things that I loved about what I was doing. So what I realized at the time is that I loved working with animals. I also got into undergraduate research, working in a dairy lab. We were doing research studies on dairy nutrition. And then from there, I kind of started to seek the avenue of going into graduate school with intention of, or either going into the workforce or going into graduate school with intention of figuring out what I wanted to do, no matter what. So I ended up taking a year off to work. I hated it. So I came back to school because I knew that I liked school and I liked the structure. So I decided to pursue a master's degree, so I'm doing my research now on sheep nutrition and its effect on the growth and development of offspring. And I like the research that I'm doing. However, my work with Whimsy, which is a learning community that promotes women in STEM, and it helps them by giving them tutors, and we have different events around either on campus or off campus where we have them volunteering or learning about just women in STEM careers in general, so that way they know what other avenues are out there. We're connecting them to other people in similar majors. So that part of my job as a graduate student has been a lot of my favorite idea of work. So while I am not at an end point yet by any means, I'm definitely thinking along the lines of doing some work with either like students that are undergraduates or in high school to help them to figure out their own paths. Because as a first-generation college student, it was really hard for me. So I feel like helping from the high school level or a college level those students to give them the support they need to find their dreams is something that I really like doing, especially working with women who are looking into science majors.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. I did not want to be a professor. I did not want to be in academia. When I was an undergrad, I didn't think I was the best writer, and my professors TAs let me know that on my papers, and I really did not like reading either. When I was an undergrad, I wanted to be a retail buyer for Bloomingdale's. So I just thought, I know, right? So I got to NYU, my parents would let me go, so I was like, fine then. I'm gonna go to UC Santa Barbara and I'm gonna do this little thing, and when I'm done, I'm gonna move to New York and make it in the fashion industry. And so I was pretty like dead set on that, and I had a mentor who was the vice chancellor of student affairs at UC Santa Barbara, and he said, Shanece, what do you want to do? I was like, no, okay, let me tell you. So I'm getting my whole spiel, and he just looked at me and started laughing. And I was like, oh, I'm not that funny. And he's like, no, that's not for you. You're about to be in academia. I see you being the president of a university. You're about to be, okay. You're gonna be in the university. I was like, oh no, Dr. Young, you got it all wrong. Lo and behold, McNair Scholars Program comes to Santa Barbara, and I get involved in undergraduate research. It was really my other mentors really pushing me into that. I did not want to do it myself, but I fell in love with it. And I think one of the things was that I saw that I could do what I wanted to do with the tools that academia was giving me. I thought research was rats and white coats and labs till you're 3 a.m. in the morning. But boop, how about I just went to Essence Festival and it did ethnography, yes, on Black women in sisterhood. And that was my research project. That's dope, right? So, it was just, it really kind of, my mentors really helped to open my eyes to see, okay, there's so much more to this, right? Don't limit yourself. And so I appreciate that. Mentors, side note, definitely make sure you have mentors and really heed to the advice that they kind of speak over you. So do I envision being a professor forever? No. I'm going to get tenure. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to get my little job security. I'm going to get my pension. And I will continue to study Black women But how I do that, you know, I have dreams and I have a vision. I wrote it down, I made it plain, I'm keeping it close to my heart. But I feel as though, you know, my job, my calling here on earth is really to be able to go and help and to enrich Black women's lives. So that is something I will continue to do.
Yeah, we on. Hi, I'm Paris again. My journey to UConn was a little different. The first 14 years of my first 18 years, both my parents were incarcerated, so I had a different avenue. I didn't know I was going to college until my senior year of high school. So for me personally, like, my guidance counselor just told me, like, you're going to college. And I started applying. I never toured a university. I literally applied to places, and UConn, like, the SSS program was my tour to UConn. So I originally came pre-med. I was going to be a doctor by any means necessary. I got involved with the McNair Scholars Program, and I started to do research in the chemistry department. And it was still antimicrobial peptides. So basically, we're at a high risk of antibiotic resistance right now because we use so many antibiotics. So it was still in the field of medicine, and I was still ready. I'm a 5th year currently right now, so the 4th year last semester is when I really like sat down with myself. My grandfather told me, like, you'll be a teacher before you become a doctor. So, you know, my granddad, he's pretty wise, so I was like, let me just listen to exactly what he's talking about. So I started to explore like teaching, and I thought just I could only be in the classroom, and that's not my cup of tea, to be honest. I work with, right now, middle school and high school scholars to like enrich and empower them to come to college. So I think right now I'm a teacher in that aspect, and I'm actually changing career fields. I'm looking to do a master's in social work. So like actually be a teacher in a different aspect. So I think I took my grandfather's words really literally. Obviously, I'm evolving, as all Black women are. So I think I'm extremely adaptable as well. So I can't tell you in 3 months I'll be doing the same thing, because I won't be.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Shanece Austin. So my path, my career path, like the last speaker, was very non-traditional. After high school, I decided to follow the route of I married and had a family right after high school. But I always knew that I was going to go to college, and so I started college at 19, a year after I graduated from high school. And while I was a traditional age student, my life was completely different than the other students that were in my class. So in addition to being a full-time student, I was raising a family, I was married. It was hard trying to balance all of that. I was a student at UConn AV Point, and obviously maintained a household, did not live on campus or any of that. I did 3 years at UConn, and balancing act just became too much, and I dropped out, and I was just working. After about a year or two of, maybe 3, of doing that, I knew that that was not the way for me, and I was not living up to my potential. And so computers started to be the thing, and I knew that I needed to learn how to use a personal computer. When I was in school at UConn, we had a computer lab, and they had the dot matrix printer. I don't know if you guys remember that. And the green screen, so it was not the personal computer that we all use today. And so I went to a local training program called OIC, Occupational Industrial Community. And I learned computers, I learned administrative work, I learned legal. I took every certificate program that they offered, I did. And I did it in about 3 months. And most folks that are in the program were older, and they were there for a very long time, a year or 2. And I completed that, and then there was a career component that was a part of that program. And they were telling me, as I was doing the career component and looking for jobs, that I should just get a nice secretary job or a legal assistant job and, you know, be settled, I'll be okay. As I was doing my research, I came across an ad for Connecticut College, which is a private liberal arts college in the city that I lived in. And as I was researching, I saw that on their benefits, that if you work there, you can go to school for free. So light bulb went off, and I was like, holy crap. So that was my focus, and all of the counselors, mentors at that program thought I was crazy because I was limiting myself to only applying at a college or university, preferably at Connecticut College. Needless to say, I got that job, probably my second interview for a position, and then I started taking classes at Connecticut College. I was there for 5 years. I was an administrative assistant, but very, very focused, very driven. I served several roles there in other ways for that university, for that college. After about the 4th year, another light bulb went off, and I realized that this is going to take me a long time to complete my undergrad degree with Connecticut College. I had about 20 credits at that time, but I had 80 plus credits at UConn. So I decided, let me apply for a job at UConn and then transfer all of my credits from Connecticut College there. So to make a long story short, started applying for positions at UConn, got a job in the School of Business, transferred my credits from Connecticut College, did 1 semester full-time here at UConn, got my degree. So now I was settled. I was working as an admin assistant in the School of Business. After I finished my degree, my career opportunities opened up greatly. So I went from being admin to a program coordinator, then an academic advisor, and then for the last 10 years, I've been the director of diversity for the School of Business. And here's one piece of advice in terms of how your career can progress. Always see yourself. This is something that I did. I always saw myself in the next role. Way before I was an academic advisor, if a student came into my office and they had questions about classes, what to take, while I wasn't an advisor, I would advise them on what they should do. And it got to the point where they were meeting with me. And then an opportunity occurred where we lost an advisor, they moved on, retired. So guess who they needed to fill the position, who was already experienced in doing that work? That was me. My current position now in the diversity office came about because I was on a committee, a university committee, a UConn committee, to apply for a grant. Again, this is something extra that I'm doing above and beyond my normal work. So again, looking at the next role, if I want to take on a position, because I didn't have, a strong educational background, I didn't have a master's or a PhD, what I did have is a strong work ethic and commitment to different projects. And worked on that grant committee. UConn got the grant, and they needed someone to run that program and manage that department. And the person that was chosen was, again, myself. So that's one thing I encourage you to do, is look ahead. Don't let obstacles that may be before you prevent you from progressing and moving forward in your career. Where I see myself is I love working with students. Where I see myself moving forward is really focusing on their financial health. And I spend a lot of time talking with students about student loan debt, investments, career planning, in order to move ahead financially. So that's what I see myself doing once I retire from UConn, and will continue to work in that area.
Hi everyone, my name is Monique. So I'm the youngest of 6. So when you're that young, toys, when you're the youngest down the line, toys are the old toys of your older siblings. So most of the time I would get like their books, the things that they should be reading, but they're, my older siblings were out, my sisters, they were into boys at that time, so yeah, whatever. So I would just read and read and read, or if we had given a book, like a textbook or workbook for school and we didn't finish it because it was kind of just touch and go with the curriculum, I would be home and I would finish it. So when I was bored, I would kind of set up my teddy bears and dolls and play school. It was kind of like my extension from not being in the classroom, and open up the workbooks that we didn't finish, and we would do math problems, vocabulary, phonics, which is not taught anymore, but we, meaning me and my teddy bears, we enjoyed just the kind of the space and environment of learning continuously. Just a feeling of like excitement and joy just would take over me. So I guess you can say I fell in love with school because I fell in love with learning, because that was where it happened most of my time as a 5-year-old. That's what we did before we did kindergarten. So I took that love, but I kind of let the love of learning take over the love of teaching. So I went into high school, was in the Gifted and Talented program back in Elizabeth, New Jersey. High school was taking AP classes, and I had a male and female couple. One taught AP Physics and one taught AP Chem. And they would threaten me. They say, you're going to college, you're going to get a 3 or better on this AP exam, and if you don't, we'll be waiting for you next year with a big gun. So I didn't really have much of a choice, I guess, because they saw that potential in me. And you've heard that I pursued an engineering degree. So a couple of schools that my faculty mentors were back in high school told me to look into: Carnegie Mellon, Lehigh University, Urbana-Champaign, Drexel, some in the area that I'll be comfortable traveling to, and it wouldn't be too much of a burden. My first time ever stepping foot on a campus was for a campus tour at Lehigh University. My mentor and rugby coach, she was from Eastern PA, so she knew about the Lehigh Valley schools, and Lehigh and Lafayette were on the list to go explore. And when I stepped on Lehigh's campus, despite it being a very elite, predominantly white institution, I felt at home. And here's why. First, when we were walking around the school, it looked like Hogwarts. So I'm like, this is going to be fun learning here. There's a lot of castles. It's very historic in the infrastructure. A lot of steps. I'm like, yeah, my thigh's going to be right. So, like the environment was just, magical, mythical. I sat in on a fluid dynamics class, and I knew everything that they were talking about. And I'm sitting amongst a bunch of white males, and I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know I can take this course, and I can pass this course. That was number 2. And then when they sat us all together to kind of give us a briefing about their financial aid package, they said, if your parents make less than this, you would come for free if you got it. So I was like, well, that's a no-brainer for me. And I was from Jersey, and New Jersey does a great job of funding their schools and having resources for minority first-generation students, but I wanted to break out of that environment where learning only happened in the classroom. I needed learning beyond the classroom and in a space where other people were embracing learning, because that only happened at school or when I was hanging out with my teddy bears. So I got into Lehigh. I applied early decision. November 1st, by December 1st, I found out by January 1st they needed $500. And I didn't know where that was going to come from, but thank God we found it. I graduated high school with a 4.375. I was number 7 in my class, the only black woman in the top 10. And I came to Lehigh to do engineering. There was no other option. I did engineering. Even though my career decision had changed, in the midst of that, I stuck with engineering because the skill sets are so transferable. So whether you learn to code, or you learn how to design a research study, or you just kind of learn these critical thinking skills that are perhaps more associated with certain technical fields, that follows you wherever you go and whatever career you explore after that. But in an engineering program, you might know that textbooks are very expensive. So I hit my second year broke, no money. The first year I had scholarships to cover that, but I spent like $700 for one semester because all the new editions of the chem book, the physics book, the calculus book, we had to take those, and that was $700. So I went to my dean and I said, I'm broke and I need to get these textbooks. I want to stay here. I want to continue to pursue. And she took me under her wing, and that's when she introduced me to NASPA's NUF program, which is an undergraduate program to help teach them about student affairs and student learning and kind of why that involvement is important in the critical and emotional development of students. So I was volunteering all over the place, and then she put me on payroll to, do some more exploring with her. So I was able to pay for my books, graduated with my degree in engineering, but I applied here and got into the Higher Education Student Affairs Master's Program because I thought what my high school teachers and my mentor did for me, I can do that and then some and change the field because there were some critical issues going on in higher education then. 6 years later, I sit here now as a PhD candidate in the Leadership and Ed Policy Program, still learning, still loving to teach and learn. And right now, I kind of am transitioning where do I want to go from here. And I think that was one of the questions. So in the year and a half that I have left here, I'm exploring admin positions, and if you know of any of these, please send them to me. Admin positions with a connection to the classroom, and that could be clinical faculty, teaching faculty, adjunct faculty. I really don't necessarily care for the title. I know I don't want a tenure track position because I want to impact change on the outside of the door and on the inside of the door, so that speaks to me. There are definitely needs for faculty, tenure track, and Black women do need to be represented in those roles. Same for admin, but I know that this hybrid is what speaks to me. So hopefully in the next year and a half, I will secure a position with that or an opportunity to negotiate that as I enter into that role and eventually find out how to become an author by Paris over here and get my story out and help other women get their stories out. And continue to impact change in my local and perhaps national communities in the future.
Thank you guys for sharing that with us. So for our second question, we have, how has the idea or pressures of what it means to be a 21st century woman impact your vision for your career path? By that we mean raising children, owning a home, being married, etc. And how would you say your work or life balance is?
So, being a 21st century woman who's also a young woman, there's a lot of expectation on me from society to, find somebody, get married, have kids, etc. And honestly, I've been really, really bad at that. So my mom the other day, she sits down at the table with me and my two siblings, and we're all just eating in dead silence. She goes, "I'm having grand dogs, aren't I?" And it was like, could happen. But no, I think that I'm glad that she's not putting that kind of a pressure on me, at least. Because she knows how important my goals are to me, and that getting an education is one of the things that I've always wanted to do. I was the first person in my family to graduate college. I have an older sister, and I even beat her, and I'm really proud about that. She's on her way, but I still was first, so I put the flag down. I'm really proud of that. And so now I'm also going to be the first person in my greater extended family to get a college degree and a master's degree. So I'm pretty proud of where I am and where I'm headed, but I don't know, I personally feel glad that I don't have that kind of a pressure on me, because I know that all of that will fall into place, and it's not like I'm not dating or seeing people or considering that offers the possibility of a family in the future, but that there's no rush, and I like that that's kind of a support system around me that is in agreement that they don't need me to get married or they don't need me to have a house by the time I'm 20 or whatever. So.
Just really quickly. So based on the story that I shared earlier, you guys have gotten the message that I do things not in a traditional way. In terms of a work-life balance, buying homes, I bought my first home when I was 28. So my husband at the time, and I were really big into real estate investment. And we probably owned about 10 properties. I was a student at the time, had a family. I continued to own real estate. That first property we bought at 28, I still own that to this day. It's almost paid off. I have a vacation rental that I do. I say all this to share that I see myself outside of what I do for a living, and you want to, in order to have a good work-life balance, you need to develop yourself outside of your career and have other interests that you have. So real estate has been a big interest of mine, and I've been pursuing that for the last 20 years. I'm 48 now, and you know, family has always been big. I've never allowed my job or my career to negatively impact my family life or my life outside of work. I think that's important.
It's only right that I address this question since I'm sitting here with my 1-year-old. But work-life balance for me, I'm still working on it. I work on it every single day. So I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and the reason she's here with me today is that I had bought tickets for my husband and son to go see Marvel Universe live, and Monique said, "Oh, you should, you know, be on the screen." I was like, "I can't. I have Tarina. I can't do it." And she's like, "No, bring the baby. It'll be fine." I still don't think it's fine, but you know, I'm here.
The little one's fine.
So she's about to run off the stage, yeah. So I'm constantly working on it. Especially with young children, it's like something that I have to keep reminding myself that, oh yeah, I'm married too, because literally the kids like take up like most of my time, and you know, I find that I tell people when I come to work, it's like a vacation. I'm like, work is easy. It's like when I get home, that's when the second shift starts, and that's when like I'm like always on, like constantly. They require like all of my attention every time I'm around them. And I talk to a lot of graduate students too that are currently moms, and you know, just talking to them and like how to balance like, you know, classes and having a baby. Because if you think about it, a lot of times, you know, you might be a grad student in your 30s. That's when you want to start a family. Not any pressure to start a family when you're in grad school. But you know, a lot of women, they feel like, okay, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it if they're married? And so, and my thing, and a lot of them that don't have kids, they would say, oh, when do you think is the best time to have kids? I was like, there's no good time to have kids. If you want kids, you have kids and you make it work. I mean, that's what you do. But just talking with some moms that are in graduate school and how they balance things, and you know, I'm sure I could have done it in grad school, but I don't envy them, you know, because they're having to study. You know, when I go home at night, I could just be on, you know, kids and husband, you know, for the rest of the evening. I don't have to open a book. I might check an email, like while I'm, you know, laying in bed and do like an hour of work or something. But, you know, they have to study and they have, you know, comps to pass and all that. But I'm kind of rambling now, but it is hard, and it's something that I work on constantly. And it's all about prioritizing, and you know, somebody else says family has always been important to them, and that's for me too. Like, you know, family comes first for me, because at the end of the day, that's what we have left. And it's been a challenge for me and my husband here, because we have no family in Connecticut. And so, you know, like on a day like this, when I'm like, oh, I want to do this panel, I could call my mom. My mom is all the way in Arizona. So it's like, you know, that in itself is a challenge. So, you know, as you progress, think about things like that as you move away from your families. And, you know, the closest family we have lives in New York. And so, you know, sometimes they can help out because they're close. But just be aware of those things as you move forward in life and starting a family.
I think for me, like the 21st century woman, I'm a Black lesbian woman, so there's a lot of intersectionality there. For me personally, every space that I'm in, I have to be a Black lesbian woman, because if I'm not, and I sacrifice one of my identities, like I have in the past, then I'm not showing up for people that look like me in all aspects. So I feel like for me, it's harder because even like dating, it's hard, but I also know like I'm involved in this, I'm involved in that. I always have to be in certain spaces that don't allow me to be there to revolutionize experiences. I feel like since I was younger, I've always been that person. Like when I went to Florida because when my mom was incarcerated, we lived with my grandma. But I came back here in 8th grade. I was accepted into a charter school, Jamoki Academy. In my first week, they have a space where like you respect authority, and it's not that I don't respect authority, but when I know that I'm not wrong, I do voice that I'm not wrong. So literally my first day, a girl put her hand in her mouth and put her hands on my clothes, and I was like, knowing like medicine and how like I was young, but I was still like on that pre-med mind a little bit. I was like, there's so many diseases going around that you cannot put your hand on my mouth, your hand in your mouth and put it on my clothes. And we were at silent lunch, so obviously I wasn't supposed to say that. So I was told to go to lunch detention. I told the lady, no, I'm not going because I didn't do anything wrong. So I was going back and forth with her for about 2 minutes, and then this is literally the whole school, because the school is it's not that large. Everybody gets up and starts clapping and cheering and like, finally somebody said, and I'm like, oh my God, my mom's gonna kill me. So I couldn't come back to school until my mom came. So I knew in that moment that I was in trouble. I was like, yeah. My mom was like, you always have to be the voice of the people. And in that moment, I didn't understand how important it was. But now I understand that if I'm not the voice, then who will be? And like I said, my intersectionalities are extremely important, and they get hard because I may want to not do this, but it's like if I don't show up in this manner, then will I be represented? Will I be represented? And will somebody hiding their identity be represented as well? So I think, especially in this administration, it's extremely important for us all to be here and for us all to support each other. So honestly, the 21st century woman is changing. The Black woman is changing all the time. And honestly, me and Odile was actually talking about it. Black women show up for people all the time. But if you can see around this room, we only have one Black man in here showing up for us. So I think that's an importantly, well, two. Excuse me, sorry. Two. He didn't even listen. See, we only have one. You know what I mean? But I think that's important to consider too, because we're always on the forefront of change. Nobody talks about the women's rights movements and how we were actually there on the forefront. But everybody knows Susan B. Anthony. I'm asleep. It's just a really important space for us to be in and to be supporting each other. So I think that's mine.
We'd also like to open up this question to our professional women in the audience as well. If you guys have anything to add, or if you want me to repeat the question, I can. So, how has the idea or pressures of what it means to be a 21st century woman impacted your vision for your career path? And by that we mean raising children, owning a home, being married, etc. And how would you say your work and life balance is?
I'll feel that a little bit. I did things in a non-conventional way as well. And as I've gotten older, balance is very important. You want to definitely have time for yourself and what is important to you besides your career. Try not to be too much in a hurry to choose a life partner or a mate, because that's probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make. And if you choose poorly, it can have severe consequences. Ask me how I know. How do I know? How do I know? Because I married a The best thing out of that marriage is I have three. I would say 2 sons and a daughter. So it adds up to 3 wonderful, wonderful children. But it really, don't be pressured into choosing a mate or choosing a partner early on. Also, right now, what used to be experimental in terms of egg freezing or egg vitrification, because it's the most accurate term, is becoming more standard of care. So that, as you go into different programs, if you have insurance, or you may want to factor into your budget being able to freeze some eggs so that they will be available when you're ready to have your children. Unfortunately, we have to choose between the mommy track or perhaps not having children, or waiting until it's waiting too long so that it becomes difficult to have children. So that's another option, finding that not a lot of women who look like us are aware of that as a possibility. But third thing would be have a mentor, and that will certainly help with your balance. But be kind.
So you guys are always trying to sign me in as a student. So I think the wear and tear of having three kids is not showing up on my face. Apparently I can still pass as a student. But I had all of my children in graduate school, and I had a stepson. And my husband is not a sociopath.
That's the same thing.
While he was my husband, he's my ex-husband now. But he was a great dad and a wonderful husband during graduate school. And I credit him with, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gotten my PhD. Because he did take care of all 4 of the children while I had to hide out in the library and do my dissertation. And although he's my ex-husband now, he still showed up. He showed up for tenure, he showed up so I could do my book. And I think the most important thing I could say to you guys is have your kids when you want to have them. Right? I have a lot of friends who waited and can't have kids now and who are in other kinds of mental health problems because of that. I had my kids when I was 24, 25, 26, and it's the best decision I made for myself. You guys have to make the best decisions for yourselves. And now that my ex-husband is, on to his next wife, his other children, and he still shows up, I've been able to surround my friends, surround my family and my children with my girlfriends, and we have our babysitting circle of 5 women, and we show up.
Can I get in that circle?
And we show up for, this thing, but we show up so we can go out on dates, and we show up so we can participate in other things, so we can go hiking, so we can engage in self-care. So just Monmouth as a modern woman raising 2 kids. My next son is here at UConn. My other son is a sophomore in high school, and I have a 10-year-old, and my stepson is 22. And the most important thing for me is that I have tenure. I can do anything I want to do. So that anything right now is showing up for myself, being there for my kid as he's trying to figure out if he can stay in STEM, because he's a black male, he's good in math and science, he feels like that's what he's supposed to do. I'm not helping him decide because I'm trying to give him that space. I'm showing up for my children, and then when I get them out of the house, my dream, long-term dream, is to be a novelist. So, talk to you first. So that's all I want to say.
So I just want to add, do not be afraid to define for yourself what a 21st century woman is. I was a good little girl. I followed all the rules. I finished college. I did everything I was supposed to do in the right order. And found myself divorced at 38 with 2 little girls.
And so what did I do? I went in for, I applied to the doctoral program here at UConn. And I just think it's really important that everybody has their own trajectory. Like society has all these expectations about what women are supposed to do. And I think we have to not be afraid to define that for ourselves. That might mean having a family and a spouse. That might mean not doing that. Not everybody wants to have. And I'm saying this as a mother. Not everybody wants children. And so that we have to sort of give each other permission to define ourselves for ourselves, I think, because there's a lot of shoulds. We should on ourselves and we should on each other, and we need to do a better job of letting stop shooting. Don't shoot. You know, because everything about this is what you should do because you're a woman and you're a black woman, so you should take care of everybody. But first, you have to take care of yourself. So don't be afraid to define who you are for yourself.
I would just like to add that balance is not a balance every day. So when we talk about work-life balance, it's not a 50-50 game each day. It's really a life balance. Because I tell people, at different periods of time, you'll find yourself focused on one thing more than the other. But what you want to do is assess throughout, is it balanced in a way that I'm focusing on the right things, and specifically the right things for me. And remember, the right things for you will never be the right things for everybody. And that's hard to learn. And I'll say many of us learned that later in life. It's about what's important to you, because as women, black women in college, you were likely the chosen one in your areas. You know, you have accomplished many. People have lots of faith in you, and they want you to be successful in what you do. In that, they also have a plan for your life. Or they might have a plan for your life. Have you heard the story about what you're going to do next and how you're going to get there? What you want to do is define what do you want in your life, and how do you assess whether or not what you're doing is right for you at the time. And you'll make decisions that people may not agree with, or you have mentors that will take you in a direction that you did not anticipate. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, am I doing what's right for me? And can I live with it, and can I balance it over a lifetime? Not every day, because every day is not 50-50.
So the next question is, how do you take care of your mental health while also being successful in your field? What does your self-care look like?
Okay, so I'm going to go first. I go to therapy. I go to therapy bi-weekly, and you don't want to UConn insurance if you have it. The grad union did a great thing to negotiate better benefits for grad assistants, and I pay $15 every 2 weeks. So I'd rather go to therapy than to get my nails done, because that's important to me. But I have a little change left over to get my nails done because it's only $15. You gotta make that sacrifice, right? And not a negative connoted like connotation of sacrifice, right? But more of like a choosing of a higher self of you versus where you currently are. Like, I go to therapy because I want to get to a place that I never imagined for myself until recognizing that the place I was at before therapy was not where I needed to be. I also have a friend who is learning how to be like a holistic, like guru person, like, you know, teaching meditation and getting in touch with your inner guides. And while she's in school learning this, I'm one of her like clients to build her skill set. So I'm getting this done for free. So there are plenty of opportunities, but you got to figure out what's going to be best for you and what your needs are. But I would say therapy, at a time rugby was doing it, and now with the mental holistic mindfulness thing that I'm doing for a favor for my friend has been really helpful. And that may change depending on where you are in life. So rugby did it for me in my early 20s, but now I really got to talk to somebody instead of, you know, being competitive in a sport and throwing my body into somebody, like I'm transferring negative energy onto them. So that's what I do, and I find it to be very beneficial. I have a black woman, if y'all want her name, let me know. And a black young woman, so I'm like another young woman who has to get the clinical hours up in order to move along in her licensure. So they're out there, and it's great that I have two black women who are helping me understand what my mindfulness is and how do I get there with their help. I love that.
Yes to therapy. Yes to therapy. That's what got me through my PhD program is therapy. I feel like you all probably know and have heard so many times, like taking care of your body, working out, making sure that you're, well, this is mental health, no, it's mental health. I go to the chiropractor. I started to do acupuncture, which is awesome. And massages. And it's so funny because I don't have children and I'm young. And so when I get my nails done, get a little makeup and I go shopping. And it's funny how, people preach, take care of yourself and self-care. But it's like, but don't do that too much because now you look self-involved, right? And you look selfish. And I'm like, well, dang, I feel like a damned if I do and damned if I don't. And so, I get this message, you're so self-centered, you just do everything for yourself. I'm like, well, you know what? I do center myself, gosh dang it. Thank you, that's a compliment, okay? I know how to take care of myself. So I've had to learn over the years how to do that and to just be unapologetic about that, especially since I don't really have it's like an excuse, like I don't have kids or I don't have a husband or a household to take care of. So it feels as though I haven't earned that self-care time. But one other thing that I just want to emphasize about my mental health and how I have taken care of that is I have learned to do, talking about that should, right, what you should do, I thought about, what kind of research that I should be doing as an untenured junior faculty person and as a PhD student. I felt there was a lot of pressure about I should be doing lab studies and experimental studies and I should be studying in this way and I should, be in the classroom this much and teach this kind of subject. And that was a lot. That was a lot of pressure for me. And I then had to realize, what do I want to do? And I think for a lot of faculty out there, a lot of people said you can't really do that until you get tenure, and I was like, bump that. If tenure's for me, it's for me. I have to make sure that I'm doing what I love to do. And that's what I started doing. And I was like, I am a happier person because I finally started doing the work that I wanted to do, and that makes me happy. That's why I got into this profession, right? Not to do what other people wanted me to do, not to do what I thought was going to get me, publications. It's something I wanted to do. And it got me publications anyway. So, right, when you start to do what you're called, like the calling that's on your life, and you walk it and you're passionate about it, you might be surprised at what comes about anyway, or from it. So I find as though the taking care of my mental health and my profession, my professional career, they aren't like bifurcated, you're right, they're not separate, but actually they kind of inform one another when I, think about it in thoughtful ways about how they can kind of coexist, right, and work together.
For me, part of taking care of my mental health is just having quiet time and having that time where I can think. And so for me, I walk daily. I used to be really involved in working out for the weight loss, exercising for that purpose. But now I walk and exercise just for my own mental health, just for that quiet time. It allows me time to think and to be in a space where I'm with my own thoughts and be comfortable with that. So that helps me.
So for me, I do everything out of love. I'm telling you no out of love. I'm telling you yes out of love. Practicing, exercising no is so important for me. I feel like I'm always accepting things. Am I like, oh, could you watch my kid? I'm like, I actually have 9 nieces and nephews. So when somebody need a babysitter, they're like, oh, Auntie P will do it. Auntie P will not do it. And just exercising no, I think is so important because I'm so involved and I really do humanize a lot of situations, so I always think about other people. So currently now my mom's incarcerated, so it's a huge financial burden, but it's also a huge emotional burden too, because now we're older now, so we're actually maintaining a household that we do not live in. So for me personally, that's a huge, it's a huge burden, but just telling people no. I was driving back and forth the first 2 weeks of school, making sure everything was okay, but my siblings lived in a good radius of where my mom lived. So I said, you know what, no. And when I say no, somebody else will figure it out. So I think that's an important piece. And also finding supportive people. I think as Black women, we're always in competition with each other. We're never lifting. We're like, oh, sis doing that, I gotta do it 10 times better. And then once I do it better, I'm gonna leave everybody else behind me. And I'm a woman of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and obviously we are among other sororities, but I'm never looking at another sorority like, oh well, she doing that, no, sis, oh you doing that, I'm gonna definitely respect that, and I'm gonna show up when it's necessary, because I think we're always looking for other people to pull up or like support us when it's necessary, but we show a blind eye to it. Like when I became an author, a lot of my sisters was like, I don't really read poetry, but I'm gonna show up. So one of my sisters was like, I'm never gonna read this. She had a nasty attitude, but like, I ain't gonna ever read this, but I'm gonna buy it. And it turned out that she's like, oh, maybe I'll read the first poem, and now she's finished with it. And now she's like, oh, when's the next one coming out? Oh, since she wasn't gonna read that, but now you read it. So I think the important piece is just really showing up for each other, and like, not just in these spaces, like on a day-to-day, like all these faces that we see, I don't have to know you by name, but if I see you, hello, how are you? Like, just like humanizing situations, because you don't never know how far hi, how are you can go.
Does anyone in the crowd want to answer?
I have a short answer.
Okay.
Grey's Anatomy. And How to Get Away with Murder. No, I love TV. Right. And as a professor, I have to admit that to some other people. But I have my DVR, and when I'm having my moments, I love Meredith Bird. And I love Viola Davis, and that's my mental health strategy to get through the week. And then on the weekends, it's my little 10-year-old who is going to be an architect, an artist, a dancer, a poet, and so during the weekends I kind of have to prepare myself to engage her in one of those roles. That's my weekend mental health.
I think it's important sometimes just to check out. I think one of the panelists talked about taking time just to do the walks and have the opportunity to listen to your own thoughts. I believe that social media oftentimes forces us to think a certain way, or allow us to think that we have to be a certain way. We start to do a lot of shaming of ourselves based on what we see and what's projected out there, and we begin to lose ourselves in terms of who we really are. So I think it's important sometimes just to shut down social media, sometimes just shut down friends that are toxic, individuals that are just not really pouring into you or being positive, and just allow yourself to really identify who you are. Because we get caught up, and you know, every day you start to see these messages, the same people are hanging around, and they may not be as positive or pouring into you the way you should or the way you need. And so it's really being cognizant of that and paying attention to that inner voice, because your inner voice will tell you when it's time to shut down. And it could be a moment where it's actually very beneficial for you, and it just reminds you of who you are. So I think that's very important. That's something that I tend to do. I may take a fast, so to speak, a social media fast or some type of fast where you're just kind of I'm not fasting from negative people, fasting from negative thoughts, and it just helps you recalibrate and get ready for what you need to do. So that's so important, especially as we're getting prepped for the new year, as you're ending the semester, starting to think about what are some of those strategies that you can implement just to be a better you for next year as well.
So one of my advisors that I have from Harvard when I studied Black Hispanics on regional level. So, yeah, I came here, so
Sorry, I'm Jamelia. I'm an undergraduate for chemical engineering. So one thing I've learned, because I'm balancing being in school and being part of a national organization, is taking time. So one thing I learned is you start your day up with positive affirmations to yourself, because you might not think that goes a long way, but sometimes it does go a long way. When you don't feel like you're doing enough, you don't feel like you're good enough, those positive affirmations go a long way for yourself. Because you're telling yourself you can do something instead of manually putting yourself down. And also, I learned to cut people off.
So it's not like permanently, but for myself. So on weekends I don't do anything with my organization. So my days are rotated to Monday to Fridays, and about 2 hours per day, and that's it. And if they have questions, they can text me. I'll find other than I don't do anything. And that's helped me a lot because I'm playing a conference and it's stressful. And to bounce it off of my senior year is another stress on top of it. So, and I also take myself out of going to places. If I don't want to go, I'm not going, no matter the pressure. If I know I don't feel like it, I know I'm not going to enjoy myself, I don't go because at the end of the day, I'm for myself, not anyone else. And if I don't feel comfortable there, I'm not going to go there. And that's why I've been learning. It took 4 years. Senior year took 4 years, and I'm glad it took me that long. And one thing I also learned is it's not time management, it's self-management. So when people say time management, it's you can't manage time, but you can manage yourself.
Okay, well, thank you guys all for sharing. Our next question would be, what are some obstacles you face as a Black woman in your career field, and how have you overcome them? How have you navigated expectations of whiteness for your environment? For example, hair in the workplace, code switching, complacency or silence during microaggressions, etc. Or in other words, how do you honor your Blackness?
Hi. So being a Black woman on a farm is probably one of the weirdest experiences I have ever felt in my life. Everybody likes country music, everybody grew up on a farm that their grandma or grandpa had, and there's a tractor. It's weird. And there's been a lot of things that I've had to deal with because of that, and because of the environment that I'm in, where there's a lot of white people on farms. And there's a lot of white people who support things that I do not support on farms, and discussions that I've had to encounter because I work on farms. So one of the big things for me was, for example, when I took a swine production class, and pig smell really, really bad. Not gonna lie, they're probably the worst smelling animal of all because their food is so similar to human, so it smells the closest to human food. And they recommended, like, oh, well, you know, just tie your hair like this so you won't get the pig smell in it. And I was like, that's not gonna work for me. So then I come in looking ridiculous with like all sorts of like 8 different hats on my head to try to keep the pig smell out of my hair, because I don't wash it every day like some of the other people that are on the farm are. And I'll put it in a protective style and I'll leave it for a while and not want to have to worry about it getting pig smell in it or whatever. So that was an interesting experience. And then also politically, having people call me, it was a libtard, that was the word. There was a graduate student that I worked with in undergrad, and when the elections were coming around, she was like, that's such a libtard thing to say. And I've never heard that word before, but I just had to kind of take that in stride because she was technically my superior, and I didn't know how my actual advisor in that lab felt about politics, etc., so I didn't go to her about it. So I felt like in that, it was about me censoring myself while also trying to educate her. So it's been an interesting balance being around that many people that don't look like me, and having to be working in that field with so many people that don't look like me, don't agree with me, etc. But I have found friends in it. I have found people who aren't closed-minded, and actually, even though they don't look like me, they want to learn about me and my culture, and they take a genuine interest in it. And so that's been kind of nice to be open up to that kind of a circle of friendship. However, I've also found that because I have so many people around me that are white, I have a lot of white friends. And that has isolated me somewhat from the African American community because I'm not Black enough now. So it's been an interesting time being who I am in my life, because I've been trying to get more in touch with people who look like me, because I love being able to share in that. And as I was coming closer to graduation, I felt more comfortable opening up to people that did look like me, and it ended up turning out well, and I didn't run into the same kind of people I ran into when I tried to do that in high school that were like, oh, she's the Oreo of the friend group, or whatever. And so that was it's an ongoing process for me, but I think that I've been trying to just put a little piece in every day, and doing something like this panel, or joining organizations, which I've been trying to do. I've been honestly trying to balance just getting into grad school in the first place, but as I get more comfortable in graduate school, when I get more involved, I want to get involved in groups of people, people that are like me, Black women, Black people in general, so I can continue to grow in that aspect.
I think for me, I'm a huge reader on vibes, so if I say something that is like discomforting for people, I already figured it out. So I feel like in that space, like, if I feel that, if I say something about my identity, like being Black, being a lesbian woman, like I said, I bring all my identities where I am. So if I feel a discomfort, if it's a discomfort of unknowingness, that's different than a discomfort of disgust. And I feel like even, we talk about like white dominant like spaces, but even Black spaces are really homophobic, and they're really, like you said, Black enough. And I feel like sometimes I find myself to be too Black. Because I came from the hood, my parents were incarcerated. These are issues that a lot of people that are at UConn that are Black, they don't understand because they don't have the intersectionalities that I do. So I think for me, I just really show up in all places, and I am who I am. And I feel like if you don't like it, then that's not my problem. And if you don't like it, like if you want to learn something, I'm not huge on the learning aspect. That's something one of my mentors are just trying to teach me. I don't want to be a Black person that has to teach everybody about everything. Like, if you really want to know, there's a lot of literature out there. But like, for me personally, it's really hard for me to like be the person to teach. Like, I really am tired of teaching, but I don't teach as often, so I'm like, that's the only thing. But I think just like really, for me personally, like being that only Black. Like, being that only Black lesbian woman is like, I know for a fact that I have to speak on behalf of everybody. Like, I'm in a class right now that I'm extremely uncomfortable because the professor, he knows his privilege, as he says he knows his privilege, but then he still says things that are really like, are you serious? And it's like, we don't constitute killing, but a person of color being killed by a police officer. If you know your privilege, you don't say that, coming from like certain like backgrounds. But like, honestly, I would just say like, it's an ongoing process. Like, some days you teach, if you're not in the space to teach, don't pour out that glass. Like, if you are, it's a little full today, maybe I'll engage in this manner, but I'm learning to engage and disengage, to be honest.
Do you actually mind repeating, like, thank you.
What are some obstacles you have faced as a Black woman in your career field, and how have you overcome them? How have you navigated expectations of whiteness of your environment? For example, here in the workplace, code switching, complemency, silence during microaggression, etc.
And I actually got it, thank you. But yeah, in case others were all right, so in my field, in student affairs, I would say that it is a different field than most. You get a lot of diversity in terms of individuals' representation and their backgrounds when they're entering the field, because we kind of cover the gambit of kind of student life. So you'll work with people from res life, athletics, community standards, you name it, as well as people who are responsible for delivering curriculum as faculty. I would say my biggest issue in my field, personally, is we rely too much on Black women to solve issues. And when you are a Black woman, when you have that identity and you are in this body and you show up and you look the way you look, people come to you thinking you have the solution to all the problems. And that's not the case. But you feel that felt pressure each and every day that you kind of walk through those doors when you are in class and there's a topic about, for example, being the child of formerly incarcerated parents, which I also identify, or when we talk about black males dropping out of college or black males being racially profiled on college campuses, I am a sister to black males. So there's a position that I find myself almost always speaking to, and I don't find that as a weakness, but I find it as a personal strength that, to your point, is not responsible for teaching you about the issues and challenges that my community faces. But I honor the fact that I have those identities, I have those experiences, because I can engage when I want to, and to whom I want to, what that experience is like. But knowing my story, to especially my white colleagues, is not, a pathway to, a direct pathway to understanding the problem and then identifying a possible solution. It has to take understanding communities and their experiences and how things are done in their hometown. How often are people trying to block the vote? How frequently have they done that? It's not just a mere, well, black people don't vote. I believe black people vote. I surely do, because it was practiced in my home, and we always saw people in my community lining up at the schools to vote. We have to question, why do we perceive that black people are not voting? And what can we do to figure out what the truth is behind that to get access if that is an issue? And it has been issues with gerrymandering and other tactics. So that was my biggest challenge, of trying to figure out, okay, yes, I'm an individual in this community, but I'm not gracious enough by the gods to snap a finger and the problem be resolved. I can help people understand to an extent, but if you care about it and you want to do something about it, you have to, have a level of education and awareness for yourself to then be able to engage, regardless of your identity, with individuals who are affected by those issues.
All right, so my experience has been a little bit different. I'm one of the older ones here on the panel. And, when I started my career, the mantra was assimilate, assimilate, assimilate. And so and I was told that you had to look a certain way, you had to speak a certain way when you were in the workplace. And I am just now, I would say, embracing my blackness in the workplace, because I kept it separate. I was Shanece, one way at work, and a different Shanece at home, and around, my family and my friends. And so probably in the last 4 or 5 years, I've started to break my whole self to wherever I am. And I encourage you all, because we're in a different space, and where the message now is to be your authentic self, to do that. Because there was a time when those of us starting off in our careers could not, or it was frowned upon. You were either thought of to be a troublemaker, just not assimilating enough, or not getting opportunities because of who you were and how you presented yourself. So it's weird now, because I see people that I'm friends with who will say things like, oh, it's like, you talk a lot about black stuff. Yeah, because I'm black. And they never knew that. And we, worked together, knew each other, because, and again, they didn't know that side of me, because I had always been taught by my mother, what I, viewed and saw, that you had to keep those two lives separately, your work life and your home life. But that's changed for me, and I'm comfortable with sharing my story, sharing my past, and not having to be worried about being too black or being who I am.
I'll just say my biggest obstacle is affect. And what I mean by affect is emotional expression. And I don't mean tears, because we all know who kind of owns the tears space, whose tears move mountains, and it's not mine. It's not yours, it's not ours. But what I will say can be a catalyst in interactions is when I get passionate, or my voice, my volume raises a little bit, right? Or I get kind of comfortable in my stance, like somebody thinks I'm about to calm down. Exactly, right? And that's the response that I get. I don't know if y'all get this, but you can see people's eyes getting real big and kind of moving back in their chair like you about to jump out and punch them, and you're just like, I'm just talking. Or you offended me and I'm trying to address that in a conversation. Or I have a point that I think is really important and you keep cutting me off, and so I'm trying to, you know, make sure I have my voice heard in this interaction. I find that to be an obstacle. And I struggle. I know I'm not the only one who says, oh, I wear my emotions on my sleeves. We all do. As humans, we emote, that's natural. But also I think as Black people as well, there's a style of communication that we've been socialized, right, to enact during our encounters with each other. And it's different than the way other people communicate. And so I'm tired of people telling me that something that's different is wrong, right? There's no place for that. It's inappropriate, it's unprofessional. So I still struggle with that. Even in my own romantic relationship. So this ain't just even a black-white thing. Sometimes it can be a woman-man thing. I don't know. My partner's always like, dang, you need to calm down. I'm telling you to calm down one more time. So yeah, for me, that's it.
Okay. So this will be our last question, and then we're also opening up to professionals. What advice would you give to young Black women in 2018 looking to excel in a balanced way, and/or what is something vital you wish your younger self had known?
Very quick. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You do not have to be perfect, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I think for me, the most important would have been the importance of having a mentor and seeking out a mentor. Sometimes it's more than one mentor. You may need a mentor for your personal life. You may need a mentor for different aspects of your professional or student life. And don't be afraid to go out and network. Don't be a recluse. And I think that was something I was always somewhat afraid to do. I might not think of it now, but I didn't put myself out there because I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. That I would be ridiculed. I happened to be going through some things in my basement, cleaning out. I was going through some letters and recommendations and whatnot, and I had pushed all that stuff out of my mind. When I read this stuff, people talking about me, I was thinking, damn, I was good. But, I had somehow devalued myself. So don't devalue yourself. I don't want to sound like whoever that woman was that wrote that book, but definitely know your worth and make sure you get your worth.
I just want to say, I would tell myself to invest. Yes. I wish I owned 10 homes. I wish I owned one. I've never lived in a home that's been purchased. My parents always rented. So I wish I had opened an IRA earlier. I wish I had some CDs, even if it's only $500. Put it in a CD. I wish I had taken the chunk of money that I received after college, or actually the beginning of graduate school, and actually purchased a duplex or a multifamily home. And so I had some other people pay my mortgage, right? I wish I knew that. And in some of the kind of things that I thought about, oh, this might be smart to invest in this, or I might talk to somebody about it, and they talk me out of it. So, so invest if you can. Talk to somebody who's good with money and really have them help you out, because these are your years, in your 20s, where you can really do some things.
Absolutely. And the flip side of investing is understanding your debt and not giving into debt. We as a people are huge consumers, and we need to raise our financial IQ. And the big thing before you can even invest, because we all have dreams and we want to accomplish these things, is if we don't have the money to do that. So we're spending money, you know, credit cards, even student loans. You know, I talk with students a lot about, and I wish I had known, because while I owned a lot of properties, I didn't understand money, because if I had, I would have been paying those properties off and owning them free and clear. What I was taught was to acquire, continue to buy, continue to buy, continue to buy. And now I understand the power of owning and owning your money. There's in the Bible it says that the borrower is slave to the lender. And I really would encourage you to just think about your debt, be debt free, manage and control your money, and then opportunities will happen from there.
On that line of investing, I'm 27, and just a couple months ago I met with a financial advisor who works at Northwestern Mutual. I have a life insurance policy that is well set up, IRA, maxing out on that, and a cash management account. In addition to accessible savings account in case something happens. What I'm trying to say is UConn has blessed me in many ways, so I can pour the blessings back into myself and my family. So if you get enough, yes, and a very nice, because I got an infinity fund, y'all, and I'm going to get my Q50 one day. But I'm allowing my money to help me do that instead of, you know, trying to sit on $50. Like if you got, you know, even $500, $700, try to find a place to put it where it's promising, you know, where you don't have to think about it, you don't have to worry about it, it'll grow, and it will be something of use in the future. So if you want to know who that person is, come talk to me and I will definitely make a connection, because I'm all about therapy and I'm all about saving my money. Something else I would share with you is being mindful of whose advice you're taking, even family, right? I say this, and you can interpret it the way you want. Taking advice from someone who hasn't been where you're trying to go is risky business. That's why you have mentors, role models, individuals you aspire to someday be in those roles. Of course, family gonna try to, you know, give you advice because they love you, hopefully. Hopefully, that's not always guaranteed, you know, like we said earlier, people got plans for your life before you're even born sometimes. And once you deviate from that path, they'll show you how they really feel about you. As I'm very grateful to have a family that loves me and cares about me, they can't give me advice on how to write a successful dissertation. They can show up, they can be supportive, they can send cookies, whatever, that's their role. And you gotta help them, you gotta advocate for yourself by letting them know what are the limitations of the advice that they can provide. And some will give you unsolicited advice. Take what you need and leave what you don't. Because it's fun to have control over your life and you make these right decisions, or you're making decisions to get to a place where you want to be. So allow yourself to take chances for yourself. Believe in your own intuition, the people that care about you, who have been where you want to go. And you know, if you need a secondary level of support, tap into your family friends back home as kind of that extra thing that's going to push you to the top.
I second all of it. The piece on advice is so important. When I publish my book, I will not disclose information, but I was told a completely different thing than what I did. And I was, because I didn't do enough research. And I wouldn't even say I wouldn't do enough research. I humanize situations. So when I do business with people, I humanize it. So everybody doesn't humanize business. Some people, money is more important, and those are the kind of avenues that I wasn't really understanding, and sometimes I still don't. But everything happens for a reason, because now I own my own publishing group. But off of that experience, but like with people that are doing things, you can't trust everybody that do everything. Just because I publish a book, you can't trust that I'm a great author. You can't trust that I know about publishing, because
just because somebody published research, I don't mean any great research.
Or just because they for the people, I don't mean they're really for the people, but I'm slum. It's just like really knowing where the information is coming from and knowing your spiritual self. Like a lot of people, you know, they have religion, but take it a step further and be spiritual. you'll be surprised what you identify when you start to understand your own vibrations. When you elude what you want to give off. If you, honestly, one of my sorority sisters, Jasmine, she's amazing. She sits down and says, yes, I plan to do something, but my energy is so negative right now that I'm not going to go into that space. Because I know I'm going to elude a negative energy, and then that piece is not going to be good. So I think that's important too, to know where your energy is, because if it isn't positive and you're coming into a space as such, you don't want to bring that negative energy with you. And then last thing, emotions. I think as Black women, we can have the same emotions as people, and it comes off completely different. If I am upset about something, then I have an attitude. Or if I'm upset about something, oh, she crazy. But it's not the fact of, I hate to do this, but if Sally has an attitude, we won't nurture Sally's feelings because, whoa, she doesn't have an attitude like you. But I think what's most important is to really understand and be emotional. It's okay. If you're going to cry, you better cry. Because if you don't cry, you're just keeping a lot of pain in. And unleashing trauma is extremely important. Because as Black women, we have a lot of generational trauma that we don't understand or we don't think about. Because our ancestors went through a lot more than what we're going through right now. And that displaces our genetics as well, which a lot of people don't really understand. So that's my piece.
If I was giving, and when I refer to my younger self, I mean like myself maybe 5 years ago, because before that you really can't hold yourself accountable for mistakes. But if I'm giving my younger self advice, it would be to own yourself, because I did spend a lot of my time being somebody who I thought other people wanted me to be. Like I was trying to fit in with all the white people that I had surrounded around myself, and so I wanted to look like them and act like them, and they wanted me to act like them to be cool. And I really wish that I'd never done that, because owning myself fully is what allowed me to be the confident woman, and I ended up more popular than I was when I was pretending to be some other person. And it's not about popularity, it was about finding like my true friends who were going to stick around when they said, you know, oh, Alexis, you should go to Abercrombie & Fitch, because if you don't own a piece of clothing from Abercrombie & Fitch, I don't fit into Abercrombie & Fitch clothes. Like, that's not happening, especially their jeans. Those are too narrow, not happening. So, and when I finally stood up and I said, no, I'm not doing that. And some people stuck around and some people didn't, and that's how I found who my true people were. Retweet, again, back to therapy. Could not emphasize enough that if you're feeling something, or if you're even just wanting to grow more as a person, I feel like that helped me a lot in accepting that mental health issues often get overshadowed in the Black community. My parents even still think like, oh, if you go to therapy, you're crazy. Or, oh, if you go to therapy, you know, it's gotta be because something's really, really wrong with you. But nothing, yeah, go to church, yeah. If you're going through something, it doesn't have to be like you went through severe emotional trauma in your childhood to go to therapy. I would say do it no matter what. You could go to therapy when you're feeling fine and when you're feeling happy, and you'll be able to work through some of the things that you want to work through. And that understanding that a career is not a job, and that somebody told me this very, very recently, and that really sunk in with me, because when you're a little kid, you think like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like an architect or a dancer, or like whoever's child that was. That's really hilarious. But also, like, I was like that kind of kid. And what I realized after growing up is that you can add all of these little tiny aspects into your career and not have to settle and just do that one job. Like if I wanted to be a veterinarian, I don't just have to be a veterinarian. I can be a veterinarian who's also a mom, who also does outreach on the side. Or if I wanted to be a researcher, I don't have to research in science. I can research in social sciences. I can research things that interest me. And so making sure that you understand all of the aspects of yourself and you put those into your life in the ways that they need to be. So, and that all together culminates into a career, which is not just what your job is. So that's a big thing that I learned too.
This concludes our event. Thank you guys for coming out.
second. So thank you everyone for coming. I don't know if everyone received the email, but we're doing the Feminine Hygiene Project Drive up until November 26th. So if you would still like to donate or give something, please bring the products to that. They'll be at all cultural centers. We're doing it in combination with the Zetas, Campus Curls, CIS, SG Rose, and NCNW under the title Women of the UCC. Also, thank you everyone for coming out. All these professionals, I'm pretty sure, will be able to speak to you. Network, please. These can be mentors, potential people who like really push you in the direction that you need to go. I think that's all I have to say. But thank you everyone for coming. And also, if you want to take pictures, Ahmed is right there. He'll probably be here until around like 4:15. There's a nice ball right here. But thank you, 4:15. Thank you everyone for coming.
Please remember to vote on Tuesday.
And this week is MCNW week, so tomorrow we're having a bake sale, and then we're painting the rock. So if you want to come to the rock at 6, we'll be painting it with a really cool, like, unique painting that we came up with. Then we're also going to, on Tuesday, go to vote together and pass out information. So if you want to meet us at the center at 5:30, we're going to go over together while we hand out affirmations. And then Wednesday we're having a soul food sale in the ACC from 2 to 6. And that concludes MTNW.
Okay.
I didn't know you were here. I